Let's do it. It's episode 477. I got on my Public Enemy #1 shirt. Bang. The cricket connoisseur himself. Get you one. I am CoachColin.com. But let's get right into it. It's Bill Maher and Jordan Peterson. They sat down for a podcast and it was great. And what you're about to hear is them chew out Trudeau for a few minutes, as you do when you're from Canada, as you do when you're Bill Maher. And I got another Bill Maher clip of him talking a little bit about Trudeau as well. Because, as they say in Canada, F Trudeau. I think I pronounced that right. I'm pretty sure I did. But I just wanted to play that because, you know what? Not enough people talk about that guy and the things that he is doing and just how incompetent he actually is. I think it's something that needs to be, light needs to be shed on it more often until he's gone. Because, I would always think United States is the #1 country in the nation. And I always would look at Canada as #2. Because they're right beside each other. It's the continent. It's the continent of freedom. That's how it's supposed to be. Not the continent of surveillance. Not the continent of light sprinkles of communism all over the place. It's not supposed to be that place. And he is a big reason for that. Well, he is the reason for that in Canada. And, the United States has their own issues. But in Canada, it's mainly him. And if he was gone, through the proper processes of election, of course, I think Canada would just be flourishing. I think it would just be, man. Obviously, there's some people in the cabinet that have to be taken away, but that's for another episode. Let's get right into it. I got to bring you over to Coach Colin. I am CoachColin.com. Let's go. Why is the screen black? Boom. Let's go. Public Enemy #1. Let's do this. This is the newest design we have. The cricket connoisseur himself. I have the hoodie on, but you could also get a t-shirt. And we also have t-shirts and tank tops for women as well. Oh, wrong collection. That is the Certified Pureblood collection. Check that out as well. But this is the whole collection we got going on there. It's at IamCoachColin.com. And if you want 10% off of anything you see in the store, anything, big purchases, small purchases, a bunch of stuff, anything, put in the discount code I am Coach Colin. That's all one word. That's all capital letters. 1 L in the Colin gets you 10% off. And if you've done that already on the site, you are so appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now let's listen to Jordan Peterson and Bill Maher chew out Trudeau, because screw that guy.
Make fun about Canada too, so we like to do that. But it's a terrible thing when Canada has become politically interesting. The world is close to ending when that's the case.
Well, and sometimes politically stupid.
Well, yeah, often.
I mean, I read a quote from Justin Trudeau, which was so dumb. And
Which one?
What, is he always dumb?
He always lies, as far as I can tell, all the time.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard him say a word that I thought was true.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see. We don't really follow it that. And I mean, I just thought, oh, here's this, great-looking guy. Ivanka seems to want to fuck him, and Canada. I mean, how it's hard to fuck up Canada, but. Yeah, the quote I read was they asked him something about the protest because you had a big controversy about protests, right, with the truckers.
Truckers, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it was he was referring to them, but the quote was about protests in general. It was something like, we have a vibrant democracy here in Canada and we value protests, but it was something like, but when you use protest to protest, to object to the policies of the government, I think you're going too far. Well, what the fuck is protest for, except to object to the policies of the government?
It was quite shocking, everything that happened in that protest, because they seized the bank accounts of 200 Canadians, and that was not amusing. And Trudeau has no idea what that did to Canada's international reputation. That was not a good precedent.
Okay, wait, go back.
Mm-hmm.
They seized the bank accounts of what people who were in the protest?
They seized some bank accounts of some people who only sent money to the protest, like through Give, Send, Go, and GoFundMe and so forth. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So you didn't even have to be at the protest.
When you say seized, they froze it. They didn't take their money. They just froze it. So they
froze their credit cards. They froze their mortgage payments. They locked them out. So they locked them out of the financial system entirely.
That is creepy.
It's really bad. In fact, one of the banks actually apologized. There's 5 big banks in Canada, and one of them actually apologized for doing it eventually. They all should have apologized, but one did. Yeah, it was really bad. It was shocking. Canadians aren't sufficiently shocked about it, partly because they don't really understand what that did to Canada's international reputation. But it was absolutely, I can't imagine a politician doing anything more inappropriate than that, right? No trial, no real investigation. Plus, Trudeau claimed that the trucker convoy was financed by MAGA, Republican Americans, which is completely preposterous because, first of all, why would MAGA Republican Americans foment dissent in Ottawa? Like, even if they knew where it was, which they don't, and they don't care, and why would they? And so, first of all, it was the Russians. It's like, oh yes, that's the Russians' primary concern. And then it was like literally MAGA Republican Americans funding the trucker protests in Ottawa. It was so.
And they were protesting vaccine mandates.
Yeah, essentially. But they were protesting the lockdowns more broadly, I would say. Yeah. And because it was really hard on them. It was hard. Well, obviously, you were locked down. You know how fun that was.
You know what? That's something that has to be brought to attention. I got another clip that I'm actually going to play for you again. A little more F. Trudeau-esque content. It's really, that is a big part, a really big surprising part. Like, the trucker convoy was one thing, and maybe everyone was just so caught up in the convoy and how large it was, because it was massive. It was way bigger than what they were saying on the mainstream media. It was huge. It was not a gathering of hate. It was so much brotherhood. It was so much community. It was incredible to see. But I think everybody was so swept away in that they didn't actually give the freezing of the bank accounts the proper attention that it deserved. Because if anything, it would be convoy 100%, and then as soon as that died down, or as soon as it was like to the next, like that's over now, as soon as that happened, okay, now to the banks, because what they just did was crazy. That should be that like, I'm not calling for anything to happen, but the fact that there wasn't just as many people that were going to those same banks and being like, we know what you did to 200 of us, is crazy. It's crazy. Imagine bank account, credit card, mortgage, all of that being frozen. As if you're Andrew Tate. That's what happened to Andrew Tate. Imagine being treated like that because you donated to a worthwhile cause. In your mind, in your heart, a worthwhile cause. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And he's right. Like, people weren't sufficiently outraged at that, because that's going to happen again. I don't know how. I don't know when, but at some point that's going to happen again. That was crazy. And just no apology. One bank apologized, like Jordan Peterson said, but the prime minister didn't apologize. His cabinet didn't apologize. Nobody apologized. I don't know. It's nuts. It's nuts what people are willing to accept. And I don't mean the people that it happened to. I mean the people on the other side who like opposed the whole convoy. It's amazing what people are willing to accept. Not realizing that when they accept something like that, it opens them up to the exact same treatment. It's like it's not even in their head. They're like, we're on other side. This is our team. What happens to the other team is never going to happen to us. And it's crazy because it's like the people are one team, and it's nuts how quickly that people can forget that. Just nuts. Here's another clip. Another Bill Maher. I think this one's pretty hilarious, actually. Let's get it.
Trudeau. What? You're laughing, but Justin Trudeau, I mean, I thought he was kind of a cool guy. Then I started to read what he said. this is a couple of weeks ago, he was, or maybe this is September, but he was talking about people who are not vaccinated. He said they don't believe in science. They're often misogynistic, often racist. No, they're not.
That was not smart of him at all.
Right. He said, but they take up space. And with that, we have to make a choice in terms of a leader as a country. Do we tolerate these people? It's like, tolerate them. Now you do sound like Hitler.
That was...
And recently he talked about them holding unacceptable views.
Wow. I'm surprised to hear that Trudeau said those things.
You didn't see the blackface? I mean, he's no, I'm kidding about that. I'm not, I mean, that was not a good look for him. No, but, I mean, come on.
Oh my gosh, that pause was big. Look at her. She's not impressed by that. But did you see the blackface? I mean, if you're surprised by what he said. But I mean, last part, pretty hilarious, I think. First part of terms of what he said about those people, absolutely crazy. And it's just another thing. It's like just the quintessential politician willing to do anything to people who oppose him, willing to do anything to rile up the people enough to get enough people on his side so he can run again and prosper and get reelected. Just crazy. Like, here's the thing. What would he have done? What if everybody was like, yeah, we agree with you? What if a big part of the country was like, we agree with you. We agree with you. What are we going to do? I don't want to tolerate them. What shall we do? Prime Minister, what would he have done? How far would he have gone? That's why when people talk about, look it up if you don't know about it, mass formation. That's why when they talk about mass formation, it's so important that even if it's such a small amount of people, that it's so important for people to speak up. So it's like if you're on the side, whatever side you're on, if you see what's going on and you view it as an injustice, if you view it as something that shouldn't be happening to we the people, your fellow citizens, you have to speak up. You have to, because at that point, especially at that point, I've got to find the clip where he said that. That's disgusting. At that point, you have to shake people awake, because there probably were some people like, yeah, I'm not going to tolerate this. You got to shake those people awake and say, hey, that's not right. That's not right. That opens up us to that type of persecution. We don't do that to people. There has to be fair trials and choice. Like you can't have that happen. You got to shake people awake, because if there was no one, like, and think about it, if there was no convoy, what would have happened? What would have happened if everybody just decided? And they talk about this. There's an interview with Tucker Carlson, and I believe his name's Matthias Desmond. He talks about this. He says in Russia, before Russia became what it was, there was people who were speaking up and speaking out. And because of the pressure and because of the things that would happen to them when they did, they decided to go underground and they stopped speaking out in public. And when they decided to stop, everything went rampant. All the communism, all the injustice, it just ran rampant because nobody was around to shake everybody awake. I've used this analogy before. I remember I was talking with my wife, but it's like when somebody's with you, when you're riding on a train and your buddy's falling asleep, what do? You nudge him asleep. You go, hey, you knock him awake. And why do you do that? You do that because you know if you let him keep sleeping, he's going to get deeper and deeper into sleep, and it's going to be harder and harder to wake him up. So you keep nudging him awake. And then eventually, what does he do? He goes, oh man, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm just tired. Whew. And then he wakes up. Then he joins you again in reality. So important for people to do that. Anyways, guys, like the video. It helps so much. Boosts us out of the shadow realm. If you're not subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. We're uploading daily, 1 to 3 videos a day. Who else is doing it? I don't know of many. And other than that, I am out. Episode 477. Let's go.